Hi Libra, this is your August 2025 soul story. If you have a sun rising or your moon is in the sign, it's your reading. Thank you for joining me on the channel. It's Romy here. We are going to open up for you this month with the energy of the Seven of Pentacles. It really feels like the way that you invest this month, your time, your emotions, your energy, really pays dividends for you. It's like you're this sort of connector, and really beautiful things come from it. And in some ways, the more selfless you are by way of, bringing people together, or just doing things that don't necessarily immediately show you like they're going to give you a return, seem to somehow like magically almost manifest even more than you were expecting, because you kind of had no agenda. So I want to just position that with you, because there's something quite special about how that as a approach, or just as how you naturally show up in the month of August, really serves you. And of course, in Leo season, we are working with your 11th house. So when we think about the idea of the groups that you're connected to, the friendships that you have, that connectedness, those relationships are going to be really pivotal in terms of you seeing what the next steps are, and so much actually being able to come to fruition, perhaps things that you have invested time in and really hadn't seen much of a return on. August is certainly set to deliver something in that regard for you. Now, the news, of course, is that we have Mars shifting into your sign on the 6th of the month. And so, that does help the consideration when you're thinking about the action that needs to be taken. And in Leo season, we maybe get a little bit bolder. We maybe want to shine a bit brighter, and we have that courage, that sort of bravery to really allow ourselves to step into the spotlight. And with Mars supporting you, that's going to really again come through with something that feels like, here's a path towards something that I wanted that maybe I didn't realize existed, or maybe I didn't realize that it actually was something that was going to be available to me or possible for me to explore, or to get on board with. Okay, so something quite interesting and intriguing showing up in that regard. You've got to notice what is unfolding, because it feels like there is a roadmap that's being highlighted to you, and it may, in amongst all of the chaos and the turmoil that's happening, not be immediately clear to you. So you have to kind of look out for it, Libra, but nonetheless, it's gonna be there. Now, I want to call out the fact that, we do have a bit of a messy middle going on in the month of August, right? So on the 8th and the 9th, as we come into the energy of Lionsgate, we've got the Emperor here. We have Mars, first of all, opposing Saturn on the 8th, and then opposing Neptune on the 9th. It makes things a little tricky, right? We're also going to see a full moon in Aquarius arriving on the 9th. It's like the structure starts to sort of dissolve, and things kind of feel a bit fluid, a bit liquid, a bit like almost we can't really trust in this. There's a sense of restriction, and even like a surge or a spike of something that may show up. So we're going to be met with this challenge. And I think the thing to be reminded of, that Emperor feels like somewhat of the blocking energy that comes in. The thing we need to remind ourselves of is that, you have been able to keep going previously when things have felt hard, when they felt uncertain, when they felt scarce or overwhelming or lonely, or whatever the thing was that came along and presented itself as, some reason why you can't progress or why it won't work. And you know what? This is a fairly temporary experience, but it is one that's going to be felt quite acutely. It may come through collectively with scenarios that play out, and then personally that might really translate into you just feeling quite blocked, or the heaviness of something. What I think it will also show you for sure is absolutely what you don't want. And I think that brings a clarity around what you're trying to manifest and allow by way of how you are evolving, okay? This is very much a month about how much you're going to trust yourself and really in many ways being unavailable, in terms of how much attention you're giving to anything that doesn't connect with the expansion, the vision, the growth. You've got to expand beyond past experiences and don't let the constructs of those experiences, which have felt more difficult, really limit you in where you see yourself going. Okay, so we know that this is coming up. When it arrives, when it unfolds, you can kind of look it directly in the eye and you can be like, okay, here we are. The positivity about this is that as we move through this and the kind of full moon kind of brings a peak energy around things and then it starts to dissipate. On the 11th, we arrive with Mercury going direct in Leo and one of the most beautiful combinations this year with Venus conjunct Jupiter and actually a supportive role with then Saturn sextile to Uranus on the 11th, Four of Wands. Balance is restored. Not only that, there's something actually to celebrate. So it feels like no matter like what it is that you have to face or what you go through or what's put upon you, the way that you respond, how it actually ends up panning out is far better than what is expected. And I really want you to keep in mind that all the way through August, the invitation is to focus on the best case scenarios, Libra, not the worst case, all right? Just trust that, we have to go through these things, right? There's no way to kind of avoid. And actually, there's something deeply valuable that shapes you as a result of some of the challenges, This is about realizing your blessings and not looking at the burdens, seeing that they're there and almost like going through the steps that are required. But, that Four of Wands is going to bring back some balance and some stability. So even though the Emperor sits there as a sort of challenge and an opposition to something for you, okay, your ability to negotiate, to strategize, or actually with that Saturn Uranus energy to come up with some incredibly inventive way or work around something that absolutely is going to work. All right, so I need you to stop doubting and I need you to start preparing. August is a big month of preparation for the bigger shifts. And remember, ready is not a feeling. It's a decision that we want you to be making through the course of August. So, justice. Again, it just feels like whatever unfolds, actually it puts you in a better position. And in some ways that Mars, moving through your sign sort of indicates that the more action that you take that comes from a place of integrity, from the right assessment of the situation, from what is your own moral compass, this kind of connecting energy, and the fact that it sits beneath the Seven of Pentacles as well tells me that there may well could be some new like work contracts that are signed or agreements that are forged. Again, anything after the 11th, once Mercury has gone direct, is going to feel far more secure and concrete in terms of what is being offered. But it just has this sort of energy of almost like giving some sense of I know where I'm going, and I think I say that slightly loosely because the changes are still happening so quickly that we have to remain incredibly adaptable, very flexible, very fluid in this current time. However, there's just something about you being given some assurances and some kind of agreement that sort of underpins like a bigger picture of what it is that you're trying to do, trying to achieve. This is definitely a month where it's less about kind of polished and perfect, and we have a bit more of a real and rustic kind of energy, which isn't easy as we move into Virgo season, because that is sort of almost demanding that we go back to the minutiae and that we do things and we pour over it and we make it right, we make it perfect. And sometimes we overthink, we overanalyze. But I think the overarching theme of August, is about adjustments, but it's also about the attitude that you're bringing to the table. And it's just almost a sense of, it's good enough. it is actually good enough. Like you could keep going over something more and more and more and more, and it's not going to make any material difference to the outcome. So keep that in mind, based on whether it's a conversation that you're trying to get to the heart of something, or something that you're working on that you feel like that perfectionist tendency is coming through really strongly. Because of the karmic clearance that's coming through. And remember, when you move into Virgo season, you're into 12th house, there is a sort of unraveling energy, there's a release, and there's a having to make peace with things. And you might still be struggling actually in one aspect to make peace with something that's still fundamentally sort of present in your life and in your path at this moment in time. And things only need to make sense to you. It's all right. However you feel is how you feel. But that new moon in Virgo that arrives on the 22nd, King of Swords here, powerful negotiator, by the way. I just think you've got an incredible ability this month to actually be the sort of go-between, the in-between, the arbitrator, the person that actually kind of makes something work. Yeah, so if there are people in your world that are vastly opposing, or there's sort of disagreements or conflicts, like you have the answer, you have the key, you can unlock something. This connector energy, very strong this month. But what we have with that new moon in Virgo is an opportunity, and there's a bigger reset and reprogramming that's underway right now, especially with the feeling of Uranus and Gemini and how it's impacting things. So that air energy of the King of Swords that links into your air energy as well is bringing about like a swiftness in terms of the way that you're thinking. So even though there's a fog created from some of these retrograde energies, and there's challenges afoot in August of that, there's no doubt, you seem to bring with it a sharpness. Like there's an ability for you to kind of cut through and to see things exactly for what they are. And in some ways, at some point, to kind of strip the emotion out of a situation, even though it may be actually incredibly emotionally sensitive, there's still a pragmatic, practical requirement for something that is asking you to say, okay, hold on, Libra, let's just like put a different hat on for a moment, because if we're going to get through this, if we're going to get to a place of making a decision, or finding the action that's going to progress or sort of shift the overall energy of this is what's going to be asked of you. This is what's going to be required of you. And remember, Virgo is about this kind of selfless service, and there's something almost like dutiful. It's kind of like you feel obligated in a way, not in a pressured, burdened way, but just like obligated to do the right thing and to kind of handle this in the right way. So it has a legacy that actually protects you, but also other people as well. So there's something that you're going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, I handled that in the right way. Like I know I did the right thing. And particularly when there's an exit, right? Because we're 12th house in Virgo season. So if you're leaving something, if you're moving on, if you're wrapping up, if you're closing out, we always want to bring the best possible energy, because that's what's setting us up for the next, chapter of whatever is going to be replaced, replacing that. And again, doing it in the right way is going to go a long way. So keep that in mind if you're having to discuss or figure something out that you're extricating or leaving or moving on from. Okay, now the new moon in Virgo also invites, I think, a plan that can be expanded upon. It can be adapted, so we're bringing something in that's like a little bit more it has less form, but the intention behind it is still super strong. And please be open to knowing what you don't know, because you might think, right, I have the right way that this needs to be done, or I've had experience of this, or something comes along in that regard. But actually, I think that there are people in your circle, or that are stepping in specifically in August because they have something super valuable to share that is going to help improve or make you rethink or reevaluate the way that you do something. And honestly, it's gold. It's like a hack. It's like a shortcut, a spiritual shortcut. It's going to make your life so much easier. So I want you to be open to that, even if initially you're thinking, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know the validity of that. And is this kosher? Is that real? Does that work? But, honestly, like, I think this is so significant in terms of how it can support and help you. So keep that in mind, again, around this sort of new moon Virgo time. Now, as we make our way toward the 25th, where Venus shifts into Leo, again, you're getting a bit bolder in terms of just being able to say what it is you want and what you need. And that can translate really beautifully, both in like romantic relationships, in what you are negotiating for yourself in terms of your work. Remember, Venus is ruling over like value. We've got the Three of Wands here. It's in the way that you step forth with confidence and the vision that you have and your ability to articulate and kind of execute on that vision that really sets you up quite powerfully in the eyes of others, but also shows you how much you've actually changed, right? And how much you have evolved from where you've been previously. There may be aspects of things that are happening in August where you never would have expected that you would have had, the courage to kind of take on or sign up to or put yourself out for, right? So that is feeling like a sort of passion that's motivating and driving you. I think there's also some really important messages that are making their way towards you. You might have some stuff going on connected into home or the place of your work. So the sort of foundations around you with that Four of Wands feel like they're also shifting and changing. And you have an opportunity to sort of look toward the horizon and really consider with yourself, like, what is it that I need to be honestly supporting this next level, right? What changes, what tweaks, what adjustments, because there's something quite powerful in terms of your ability to call that in. You're so much closer than you think. You might be standing in a part of your pathway right now that feels like I'm a million miles away from where I want to be in life. I don't have a partner. I don't have what I want in my bank account. I'm not enjoying my job. I don't live where I want to. My health isn't great. Any of those things, the burdens that they carry, you're so close to the blessings. Like, if you could see how close they are, you would absolutely change your tune in a heartbeat. And remember, we're still seeking. We're always seeking. That's part of the reason we come forth. But this is a season of being, right? So we can continue to soul search and seek, for the things that we know we desire. But when we really step into the place of just becoming what we know is already there for us, the version of us that has all of these things, it's just such a game-changing moment. And you'll have heard these words 1,000 times before, but there's something about the way things land for you in August, how you hear, how you receive it, how it makes sense, how it connects, that it just shifts something. You shift something in yourself, and that's super powerful. So a lot of making peace in the terms of preparation through Virgo energy, because we know what's upcoming in September with your solar returns is an opportunity for you to really step up and take the limelight and really start to allow some of the things that have been held back for a long time because of the obligations or the pressure or just the way that the chips have fallen for you, the things that you were meant to learn in your path and in your lifetime. But as I said, a lot of karmic clearance underway. You're already going to be filling into the eclipse energy toward the end of August as well, so preparing for bigger shifts that are happening and big exit energy for you actually with that Virgo placement of the South Node, so it just feels like be prepared for, perhaps some major revelations and things that are going to be departing from your life, not necessarily you're walking away from, but things that are just moved out, right? And that might feel quite shocking. It might come in a way that's a little bit unexpected. It's sort of, even if you had a sense of it sort of on its way, when it happens, it feels like, gosh, this came around quick, or I didn't expect it would happen this fast or in this way. So be prepared for that exit energy coming in super powerfully toward the end of August. But look, all that space that it leaves is filled with possibility, but what are you going to fill it with? Remember, we want to be intentional and be acting really strongly toward the end of August with that in mind, so that we don't end up just kind of filling it with things that are almost like keeping us stuck or stagnant in an old energy or an old pattern. If you're new to the channel, the last 3 cards we look at in my extended reading. We talk for another 25 minutes or so and look at a personal and a relationship card for you. It's really important for those of you that invest. It helps me to continue showing up for the free readings, and it really makes a difference. So thank you so much if you do take the time to join me. I'm going to go ahead and clarify the cards and just see the direction that we're going to be taking this reading for you. Okay, so let's begin. 7 of Pentacles, we've got 3 of Swords coming through, and the Queen of Swords. There's a lot of kind of almost like no nonsense energy that I feel lands in August for you. Another 3 of Wands, which is beneficial, right? Because I think with some of the challenges that we're set to face, you kind of need that. Otherwise, you know, it just feels like you get yourself overwhelmed. Hierophants coming through here. Got the energy of the Devil. Please check out my website, romywiser.com. You're going to find ways to work with me. All my reports, my astrocartography, goddess and angel reports, all my signature products, right? My journal, my book, my deck, my membership. You'll also get links to my brand new website, the Mallorca Soul Diaries. If you follow me, you'll know that I'm emigrating with my family to Mallorca, and I also have a new healing retreat that is launched for October 26th. So follow my blog, see my story. I'd love to see you there. Okay, now we're going to have a look at Life Soul Vision Oracle. So this is my deck. Let's have a look, Libra. What are we adding to this story for you? Sacral Energy, Creative Charge. We've got Soothe Your Soul. Throat Energy. We've got Waterfalls of White Light. Rise in Love. And we've got Eclipse Revelations, Destiny Speaks. That Tower and the Eclipse, again, it just sort of feels connected to that sort of exit energy that I'm picking up quite strongly around you. Okay, we're just going to have a look at an astrology card for you as well for August. Right, we've got the element of water coming through for you. I actually really like that, especially with you know, some of the harsher sort of aspects that are showing up. It feels like it brings in a really beautiful sacred flow. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you'll be joining me on the extended. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. It really supports my work. Have a great month ahead. I'm going to see you again next time. Take good care. Bye.